Welcome to the People's Guild.
Each week we explore the Splinterland universe with guests from all across the mythical land of Praetoria.
Join us on our journey as we discuss the evolution of the game, the strategy, the lore, and the exciting path that lies ahead.
To support the People's Guild, make sure you subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts, and also check us out on PeakD, YouTube, and Twitter.
Send your questions, suggestions, and epic battles in our comments through Twitter or email at thepeoplesguildspl@gmail.com. We'll feature the best in our episodes and maybe airdrop you some prizes.
Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the People's Guild. Another week, another episode, another wonderful guest. This time we've got somebody who we haven't had on in gosh, I guess it's been 9-10 months already. Time certainly flies. Listening back to our previous episode, and quick shout out to my boy Hep, fantastic co-host. The last time we had Dave McCoy on, it was Hep's second episode all time as co-host, and man, it feels like that was a long time ago. We've come a long way. Things have come a long way in game, and yeah, we were just kind of catching up off air about some of the things that have changed since the last time we had you on, Dave. And yeah, man, welcome back, dude. It's wonderful to connect again. Good to see you, Dave.
Thanks. McCoy. Yeah, happy to be here. And the speaking of been so long, one thing I will have to say is, I know that you like having a Zircon on. I mean, everybody loves a Zircon, but you could have me on just maybe even just half as many times as Helm. I mean, you know, everybody likes talking to Zircon, but I kind of feel a little left out sometimes when you guys have him on like 8 times in the last months.
I think we've had him on twice, right? Has it been twice?
Yeah. It's been three okay. times. So yeah. You're well up. More than halfway, Dave.
Yeah. Actually, I actually love listening to Zircon, and he also hits the circuit. He hits After Sound, and you know some of the other guys too. So you know, shout out to Zircon. He's out there doing the rounds and doing a good job too. I might add.
Yeah,
and you guys are doing a great job too. I want to go ahead and apologize right off the bat because you know I said last time on the show, you know, poor Hep, it was his second time on. I didn't even know that, Hep. I thought you were the professional. Like, you know, you were smooth, you know, the way you talk. But, you know, I said last time that, you know, I didn't know how big of an audience you guys had. So, you know, I will say that you've got one more in the audience, which is me. I've listened to every one of your shows since then. And I actually went back and listened to all of them. So I can proudly say I'm a People's Guild groupie now. So.
Nice.
You got that going there. So yeah, it's a great show, you guys. It's, you know, it's something that I think is really important. And I think the community really enjoys it. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that, you know, talk about, you know, yeah, I listened to that. Like when you guys had Yab on, for instance, you know, pretty much everybody that I talked to, you know, wanted to listen to that. So great job.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah. High praise.
And you do have listeners, so I want to go on the record as saying that.
No apology necessary, Dave. I'm sure you know it was right on. I think you know I told you I did go back and listen to our last episode, and I think I closed it out by saying something that you had put you know, a little kink in my craw, so to speak, and that I was gonna bust your balls about the audience call out. And in the subsequent episodes to that last one, I think I you know poked a few jabs at you and ribbed you a little bit, but yeah, it was all in jest, man. No apology necessary. You know, I love to hear that you enjoy the episodes, man. Hep and I have a lot of fun doing it, and we've been blessed with you know a lot of people saying yes to hopping on for us. So yeah, it's credit to guys really, like you, Dave.
I love the format. I mean, I think you guys do a great job. And, you know, I know people like the stream, but I personally like this format better, you know, where you take your time and you have a conversation and you dive into the issues. it's more of a casual chat as opposed to, putting on a show for the camera, for instance. So good job. Good job.
Thanks. Thanks.
So what are we
Appreciate it,
what
man.
are, what are we talking about today, guys?
Well, what do you want to talk about, man? I want to know kind of what, how, since it's been, 9, 10 months, a lot has happened, and just kind of take your temperature on, how you think generally that 8, 9 months is gone, and how you're feeling about the game right now.
I'm feeling great. The you can't tell by listening to Mav Chat, in general, and all the people that want to pick apart every single possible thing. But I think Splinterlands has made a lot of positive moves. Maybe not in the speed or the time that everybody expected, but I think this what's happening. We're on the verge of a massive change that's going to really help the game recruit and retain the players. So attract and retain the players, and that's the change we got coming up in 2 days. So I'm stoked for it. I've talked to a lot of people about it, and I know being here since the beginning, I would say it's the number one reason why people left. Everybody talks about like I lost money or this or that. I don't think that's the reason why a lot of people left. I think people left because of the design, the way the rank system worked. It put the casual player, down. Like those win rates for the guys at the top, the pros like you two, beat the crap out of guys like me who were just everyday average Joes. And this change is gonna revolutionize that. In other words, anybody can play now. And if they're not that good, maybe buy some better cards, get some better summoners, and now all of a sudden you can take, a guy who was stuck in bronze, and now all of a sudden he's going to enjoy the game. And I think that's very underrated when it comes to what this community is expecting. You're starting to see it on the card market, but not too many people really fully grasp the issue yet. So I think it's going to be huge. I think it's the biggest thing since SPS came out.
Wow, that's
Wow.
a big, big, big statement.
Yeah, I was thinking you were gonna, put a feather in your own cap, Dave, and say the biggest thing since human only modern, but you went even bigger with SPS. That's saying something, man.
Yeah, it really is a big deal. I mean, I've told them all along, and I've run businesses. I've been in the shoes where Matt and Aggie are, and getting people is not the hard part. Keeping the people is the hard part. And one thing that they did not do a good job of, and I think they finally understand that, but since I've been here, they did not pay attention to why the people were leaving. Like when I was in their spot, I would always ask the people like, well, why are you leaving? If I had customers, I'd say, why? What's the reason why you're leaving? And try to understand. And when you hear the same thing over and over and over, eventually you're going to fix it. It took them longer, and I think part of that was because of the success. So, when SPS came out, everything went well, and they thought they had hundreds of thousands of people. Who's going to believe, somebody that's saying, you're losing your customers, but that was what was happening. Like I know, because I have a pretty good sized guild, I talked to a lot of people, and there was just people that just, they get frustrated because they could not hang with the meta, essentially. And I also think that's a lot to do with the bots too. In other words, a lot of the negativity with the bots is because you couldn't beat them. If you were an average player, you got stuck and you couldn't get by because they were programmed. In other words, it's a solvable situation. You play in this rule set with this mana cap, and you play these 7 cards, and a computer can program that in. And a human that's really good, like the pros out there that we have, yeah, they can get by them because they don't have every single card. But an average person, the average Joe, as I'll say, those are the people that had a problem. And what happened was, even if you bought silver level or diamond level, hell, I had people that had diamond level decks playing in bronze, and they could not get out of it. So I think that is cannot be underrated how many people we lost as a result of that dynamic that is now going to be reversed. And on the flip side, what it's going to do is it's going to make the game fun again, because when you're playing against me, like I've already built 3 decks just to play, and these are decks that nobody else would build. Like nobody has, the 1, 2, and 3 cards that I'm going to put in the lineup. And I'm doing that intentionally because I like to have different meta. I like to try to win with different cards. I don't want to just play the exact same card, whatever the rule set, whatever the mana, 12 mana black, go to the cursed Wendigo, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't want to do that. I want to find ways to play my cards, the ones I buy, the ones I own. And I think there's a lot of people just like me. So that's why when I say it's the biggest thing, because I think now we can market the game. Now we can bring people back. And I think we're going to be in a situation where everybody that was whining about the prices being down are going to all of a sudden be back to the, oh my God, there's not enough cards out there again. And I can see that happening. So I'm a little more long-winded this time, guys, because I know what the format is. So, you
Bring
may
it on, Dave.
you may have to butt in a couple times.
No, well, man, I just want to say that the retention can't be understated at all. It's such a critical factor, and I wonder if the team has considered. Obviously, we haven't seen anything like exit surveys for clients, for customers. But I feel like it would benefit the team's kind of direction if we could start to get a pulse on why are folks continuing to leave, why are folks maybe opt in to sell their cars, whatever that looks like. Having an open invitation to submit an exit survey, I think could drive some additional benefit to what the team is trying to accomplish. And Dave, you bring up a great point, and we saw some of that stuff already come to fruition almost immediately on the heels of the announcement that this was coming. We're 2 days away from the first piece of this ranked overhaul coming into production, into the main gameplay. And we were sitting on, I was wondering, and shout out to one of our listeners I talk to just about every time we run into each other on Ranked, Eric D. Noble. He was keeping an eye on Lux, which I think is a great example of one of those cards that is, I just can't understand why she had fallen down to, I think it was $250, $280, something like that. Just a couple of days ago we were talking, and all of a sudden it's back up to $500. Waka is back at $500, and those two cards are prime examples of exactly what you're talking about, where you go in and you buy a Lux. Lux is honestly the best bargain in all of Splinterlands, I feel like, at the moment. The only rule set you can't play her in is Little League, and at any league that you're playing in, any cards that you're playing, Lux gives you the room to put the pedal to the metal in terms of rolling out max cards across any Splinter, with obvious exception being Dragon. But yeah, man, we're starting to see that stuff, and it's important to remember it's just the opening phase of this ranked overhaul. We've got other stuff coming down the pipeline, SPS getting removed from awards chest, more SPS moving into per battle wins. Yeah, it's a really exciting time, and it's all kind of happening. It's amazing how the universe has kind of put all of these things together. I don't know which came first or which precipitated what, but we've got the killer whale stuff. We got Yaba hopping on. I think I've seen him on 3 or 4 really big crypto wide podcasts. Aggie just did a tremendous Twitter space with the folks over at Killer Whales, and got a chance to kind of do the elevator pitch live for the audience members. We've started to see spellbook purchases get a little bit of movements. The new players coming into the game is consistently hitting bigger numbers. Yeah, it feels like it's all the stars are starting to align, Dave, and Yeah. So kind of zooming out, Dave, uh, how are you feeling about Splinterlands in this moment? Are we prepared for all of these new players? Do we feel like we've got, a well-rounded product to support all of this stuff and, play to the longer game of the retention piece that we were talking about earlier?
Yes, because in the past, the thing that I kept getting frustrated, they kept talking about the new player experience, and you could read that as new player experience or a new player experience. And in my world, it's the new player experience that's the big deal. The new guys coming in, yeah, there's a learning curve, there's no doubt, but a good chunk of people are going to find their way into Discord. A lot of them are going to come via referrals. And whenever you give a referral, that person's going to say, yeah, do this, this, and this. And that's how you get going. You don't get that many cold, just guys just coming in, right off the bat. Having said that, that's kind of what I thought they were going to focus on. Like I thought that was going to be the whole new player experience, was they were going to focus on, you know, how to set up your wallet, how to transfer, Hive in game, and things like that, which is all good. I mean, I'm not saying that's not important to do, but the most important thing is what's happening in 2 days. The most important thing is if a guy, like I had this happen the other day, I forget, I think it was Magic Sulex that was in map chat, and he's like, hey, there's a guy over in general or in tavern, and he wants help building his deck for the new thing. Can one of you guys help him? And I had a little bit of time, so I'm like, sure, I'll help the guy. And so he messaged me and we talked, and the first thing I told him was, what do you want to do? And he's like, well, I've been here for 9 months and I've got a good bronze deck and I play in bronze. And I was like, okay, well, do you want to stay in bronze? He's like, no, I'd really like to climb, hopefully get up, eventually one day to diamond, but at least gold. And so we talked about it. And the first thing I told him is, you got to improve your summoners, because the summoners are the key. If you have, and for instance, if you have a max level summoner, let's just say you had one splinter that was max level. Now all of a sudden you can go find a cheap reward cards that go with it that are at max. You can find some non-meta, other cards in Chaos Legions that are really cheap, 2.5 cents a piece, for instance, for a rare. And now all of a sudden, for the cost of getting a max level summoner and getting maybe 5 to 6 other cards that are max that are cheap, for value, you've now found a way to be competitive against all those other people in bronze. In other words, your deck is going to be much better. And my guess is, he's going to end up, once you get that experience, once you get that feel like I can do this, now all of a sudden, like in this guy's case, he's up to $400 he put in since then. So he went from, not unhappy, but, how can I get better, like on a budget kind of thing, to all of a sudden, before it even started, put $400 more in. And now he's got, I think 4 full splinters, that, 4 max splinter summoners, and then, corresponding value cards, I'll say, to go with it. And I think you're going to see a lot of that. And then what's going to be beautiful about that is you're going to see all kinds of combinations. Right now, the game was boring because the guys that were good won like 80 or 90% of the time because they memorized the meta. The guys that weren't good or didn't memorize the meta basically just lost to those guys winning 80 or 90% of the time. So now you're going to have a situation where a lot of people are going to play and they're going to win some and lose some, and it's going to be 50-50. And to me, that's what's going to make the biggest difference with the people coming in with. So with all this stuff with, the Killer Whales, which by the way was incredibly, I haven't seen the show, but I've seen the little, spot that Aggie did, the promo for the show. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, that ought to be a commercial, for Splinterlands. And I can see that, being plastered all over the place for a long time. So, stuff like that is good. But I think more important is going to be whatever we get, we're now going to start to retain. We're not going to just get the professionals. We're going to get the average Joes. And that's, I think, the only thing we really lack. So I'm pretty pumped. Did I
Yeah,
get,
that's
you told
awesome.
me to stay up high. I think I went back down in the weeds. So I apologize if I did.
No, it's great. I kind of admit that I'm so glad, to have you on here and hear this perspective. And that's why I think having you here and just in the community is so great because you have a very broad perspective of the game. And when I've been thinking about this change, I've been thinking about it more of how it's going to affect me personally and not how it's going to necessarily affect those people who are, having that difficulty being stuck in bronze, being stuck in silver. And yeah, there's just, completely different perspective. And I think you're totally right. So, it's definitely amazing to hear. I've been worried about, since I stay in gold and I kind of like it there and I have a pretty good win rate, that I'm worried that since the liquidity, in diamond and champion is higher than gold right now, even though gold, we're being spoiled in gold because yeah, not a lot of people are playing and the amount of SPS we're winning through the season is just phenomenal right now. And I'm worried, I'm sad that's going away. And I'm worried that, I'm going to be matched more with people who have maxed out cards and maxed out decks than people who don't just because the liquidity is going to be higher. So if it's like looking to find someone close to my range, I feel like I'm going to be matched up against higher people more. And, like, I'm just going to, see how that goes and see what happens. But
Yep.
yeah, I totally didn't think about that other angle of it where there's a lot of people who want to be able to get higher and just, can't because they're just stuck.
And Hap, I think one thing that you're going to find, I mean, I joked about you guys being professionals because I don't know how good you play, but I do think you guys definitely know the game. You're going to be surprised at when the game opens up and invites everybody in, not just the natural, really good like gamer type people. Like like when I was a kid, we played Monopoly. That was the thing. So I was a good Monopoly player. It wasn't like this, but I mean, it was like, you played, I was going to be one of the guys, usually, in the later rounds. You guys are like that here, like, what you're doing. But the game is going to start to attract all kinds of people, the casual players, the aggressive players, the guys trying to, max out everything. And then you're going to just have guys that just say, let me go play some matches. So I think you're going to find that when you envision you're going to be playing against all these max level decks, you're either going to be playing against all these max level decks where guys that aren't really that good, like don't really know what to play, or you're going to find that you're going to be playing against people that strategically have certain things maxed, but don't have it many other things maxed. In other words, you're going to have a lot more variation. And to me, that's going to make it a lot more fun, because you're not going to like go in and say, "Oh, I'm going to lose this time." I don't think that's the case at all. I think you're gonna find your spot. Most likely, in your case, I'll be willing to bet you hit diamond. Because you're a good player, you're going to get through the weaker diamond players. But we'll see. I mean, you can invite me in before the next 9 months, and we can talk about it.
I've been up against you a couple times in some of your alt accounts, I feel like, Dave, and we've talked about it a little bit. And
Yeah.
I think you got me a couple times, and I've gotten you a couple times, so I think it's probably
Yep.
about even.
Yep. You did. I remember. Yeah. They in fact, I really enjoyed when I played you the one time because I got you good, and I was like, damn, he's probably. I knew you didn't know that was me, so
I
I
didn't.
mean,
I didn't. And then I saw that. I was like, oh man. One thing that has changed a lot, I guess, not to just jump around, but kind of what we do here, going on a bit of a tangent. We talked about your summoner, a
the
lot
Sibyl.
last time, and yeah, the Dave McCoy and that thing, with the Coastal Century. I don't know if the rewards cards were just coming out, but once people started to get their Coastal Centuries leveled up, I mean that is just like a must play now, right? Like that card, I play that card all the time. And I see it played, so much more often than yeah, when it first came out and we talked about it. So I mean, now we talked. I think people thought it was underwhelming or a little underpowered, and now it's something you see Lily probably the most, and you probably see that maybe the second most of all those summoners. Maybe it's up there with Wraith sometimes, but yeah, I think I probably see it more than I see Grandmaster Wraith. So yeah, Immortalis, I guess. You see it a lot, especially if it's like a wands out match, but I feel like I feel like I still play Sibyllus more. So yeah. Does that feel pretty good, I guess? You got like one of the best Chaos Legion summoners it ended up being after, kind
Yeah,
of feeling a little underwhelming at first. How's that feel?
I mean, it's great to see the card being played, and I agree, it's a great card. And I also, part of me feels bad because when it first came out, I really thought it was, I didn't like it at all, and I was not, I wasn't as nice as I typically am, to both Biz and Yaba. So to this day, in fact, I apologize to Biz again, maybe 3 or 4 days ago, because I mean, I feel bad because, at first I thought it was really bad, and I thought you know, they didn't spend the time they should have spent to give it decent stats, but it shows you what I know. They knew exactly what they were doing, and I was dead wrong,
Well, did they say that to you? Did they say, oh, Dave, just wait? Like, did they kind of have
No,
that planned out, or were they kind of like, don't worry, we'll fix it, and they went to the drawing
no,
board and came up with some stuff, or what do you
no,
think?
they just said sorry that you feel that way. Hopefully, you'll think different over time. And
Yeah.
it's like one of those things where, I mean, I'm human like everybody else. I mean, I was an ass basically, and I felt bad at the time that I was an ass. But oh, can I say that? I know I'm blocked from saying that on the regular radio. I don't know if
No,
I
you can
No,
say that here. It's okay. It's the internet. No one
you
cares.
can bleep me out if you need to, but
Yeah, Ben
you
will
know
go in and edit all that out. Don't worry.
no, I won't. No, I won't.
um,
but yeah, I mean, I felt bad, and it was
That's
more like,
understandable though. I mean, you had to be so excited, right? Like that's such an awesome thing to be able to do, and you've put so much into this game and this community, and apart from spending the money to even be in that position, like all the work and everything you've done, and how much of your heart and soul you poured into the game and the community, and you're gonna get this card, and you just want it to be so freaking awesome and so badass, and it kind of feels like a flop at first, right? It's got to
yeah,
be heartbroken. I think I would feel the same way, and I totally understand. You're like, I have this card, and this once want it to be your card. I call it the Dave McCoy card, and um, it's like
and
that, and you just want it to be great, But then you think, well, no one's ever gonna even want this card, or no one's gonna play this card, no one's gonna see it, and now it's
right.
everywhere.
And you're thinking reach. I mean, come on, reach. I mean, I don't even play any reach cards, like that. That was like what was going on through my head. And like I said, I was flat wrong. Like now I wish, like that's the greatest card ever. I wish I would have bought a ton of them when they were cheap. But at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, but it's good. I mean, I've apologized about it, and frankly, I think it's a fun dynamic. I mean, what I like best about the card isn't even how many times it's played. I like when I play it. Like it's fun, like to watch that thing start trampling people, and
Yeah,
I mean, that's to me, that's like I still watch all my matches. Do you guys watch your matches?
I do.
Oh,
Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, if I play brawls or ranked or whatever, I mean, I always like watching my matches, and to me, that's part of the fun is when you have a card like that, and really, if you look at the abilities, they match the look of the card. With
Hmm.
reach and trample, that looks like a card that would reach and trample.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they
And
did good.
looking at the price, I guess Immortalis is a little more expensive. But it's the second most, it's even more expensive than Lily right now, on the market. Jesus, the liquidity on the markets of
All right, you
legendary
watch it.
Chaos Legion summoners is nothing right now.
Yep, yep.
Holy crap.
You watch and see these things are going to dry up because
I mean, there's
I,
13 Acibuluses on the market, with the cheapest being, you get a level 4 at like about $10 BCX, and then the most expensive is like someone's got a for $15 BCX. But yeah, I mean, for like you've got you got it like $300-$400 to spend you could wipe out the liquidity of Bacillus on the market right now. I haven't
Yeah,
looked at this till just now about this is kind of crazy. I mean, the prices of a lot of these summoners are still reasonable. Grandmaster Wraith at, like $5, but there's just not a lot on the market.
they're being picked
Yeah.
up. A lot of people have been salty about how many we overproduced and this and that.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot that are needed. I know because I have a lot of cards already, but I know I don't have enough. So I
Yeah.
know that the number of people out there that don't have the cards they need, and everybody's like, oh, the bots are going to play themselves in wild and rank themselves up. I really actually think it's going to go the other way. I think that the people that are playing against those teams they're gonna go upgrade their accounts, and they're just gonna smash those guys.
Mm.
In other words, I mean, maybe they'll play each other and level everybody else up, but and then yeah, they'll have to deal with the formula. But at the end of the day, the bots are going to be on the bottom and the humans are going to be on the top, which, in my opinion, is the right way it should be. In other words, the humans should have an edge, and I think they do now with this new way of playing.
Oh,
Mm.
it's
Yeah.
going to swing even further that way when we start seeing the ranked battle rewards creep up and up as SPS gets moved out of chests, right? Something that I would love to see, Dave, and this kind of goes to both the points that you and Hep are making is, on the battle screen when you're watching your opponent, especially when we move into the new ranked where, hypothetically I could run into Hep, and Hep, is a gold player. He's got mostly gold leveled cards. I've got max out cards for the most part. Uh, if we're playing, not on equal footing with respect to summoners and cards, there's no league caps. Something that I would love to see is if, so if Hep is playing me and he sees, oh, that Deep Lurker gets, what is it, a press at the top level, uh Hep would be able to go in and click my Deep Lurker and open up a new tab with that card in the market with the required BCX to get to that oppress, uh, like selected and ready to go. So if there was a way for us to, shorten the time frame that it takes and really smooth out that on ramp to allowing players to level up their decks immediately on the heels of battle, because that impulse buy is a powerful thing, and allowing players to leverage that and say, oh, this Deep Lurker just kicked my ass because he's got the oppress and it's such a powerful card at the top level. If we could take that a step further and just allow for pretty much in battle purchasing of these cards, uh man, I feel like the sky's the limit in terms of wiping out this liquidity. We were talking to Infidel last week about a lot of this stuff, and so I do want to talk burn event with you at some point in this episode, Dave. But I was making the argument that the whole purpose of the burn was to remove a lot of the Chaos Legion cards from the market, and I feel like this is actually a better, more sustainable solution to meet that end. Obviously very different means, but what are your thoughts about enabling players to make those in battle purchases and or purchase from the battle screen, that sort of stuff, and really removing the gateway that is the marketplace for folks?
I mean, that would be unbelievably cool if they could do it. I'm certainly no techno wizard to figure out how to do it, but yeah, I mean, if you could pop up and let's say you just got trounced, and up comes a screen saying, "Hey, Deep Lurker just beat you. Would you like to, finish leveling yours up or?" Whatever. I mean, any of those things would be cool. And yeah, any way you could like click the card and level up with one click or something like that would be great. But I have no idea what the programming, you know, would cost, to do that and whether they have the bandwidth to be able to do it or not. In other words, I like the concept, but it may be something down the road, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, I gotta say, and I want to circle back to your Pasibilis comment. I'm glad that you were left eating crow. Pasibilis has become one of my favorites. And he's much more versatile than he appears on the surface. You know, I can't tell you how many times I reached for Pasibilis in like a poison match, with no melee, just because of the extra health. You know, anything to give my monsters a little bit of a health edge. You know, back to basics, Pasibilis is a great card for bringing abilities to the table that otherwise don't exist because it's back to basics. Um, and I want to say that, you know, I feel like, you know, we've talked at length with Nate, with Joey, with Yaba, with a couple other team members about the creation process of Chaos Legion Legendary Summoners. A lot of that stuff came down to the wire, and you know, I think it it was a sloppy experience for everybody involved, including the community that was just waiting for these airdrop cards to come onto market. Uh, and to see that a lot of these cards have, you know, not only retained value but grown in value and grown in the meta, is really great. And you know, I think we're moving to a place where that's no longer going to be an issue. You know, I know Joey is hard at work with all of the guys on the Rebellion pack purchase leaderboard, trying to, you know, craft these summoners. We're going to have everything finalized well in advance, and kind of base everything off of what is the current meta, where are the current needs, that sort of stuff. But yeah, yeah, you're such a good guy, Dave, for feeling badly about Pasibilis potentially falling flat right out of the gate. But man, I got to tell you that it feels like that was true for every single summoner with the exception of Wraith. Like, I feel like Wraith was initially very exciting to everybody. Everybody else, Yasik, everybody. Why would I want Scattershot? Pasibilis, why would I want Reach and Trample? Immortalis, I think, you know, we just took a look at the market, and he's by far the most valuable legendary summoner. But when he came out, everybody was poo-pooing all over Immortalis. And now, you know, Niflheim, we've got Immortalis banned because he's just that powerful. Lily, everybody was disappointed in Lily. So, you know, you know, I understand your sentiment, and you know, putting myself in your shoes, I would feel more disappointed because I let the community down. Like, I had a good opportunity to make a really cool card, and all of a sudden, you know, it comes out, everybody's disappointed. Oh man, it's, you know, I feel like that would fall onto my shoulders. But you know, credit to the team for being able to bring these cards not only back to relevance, but to really define what does the meta look like. And I
Yeah,
think go ahead, Dave.
I was gonna say, 100%. You know, the team deserves a lot of credit, and Yaba in particular, Yaba and whoever Biz and all the people that worked on the stats. I mean, they do a fantastic job, and it just goes to show, you know, the Monday morning quarterbacks like me, you know, that you know, get on an opine, you know, when they come out, you know, about whatever the perception is when they come out. It just shows, you know, that these guys are the pros. I mean, you know, the Splinterlands team did know what they were doing. It's just, you know, and it just took a while for everybody else to figure it out. So, and the other thing I would like to say, while you're going through the design process, you know, I did go through that, and you know, Joey is just unbelievably, like, I didn't know anything about him. Like, I had no idea he was a colonel, and his whole backstory and all the stuff that I learned on y'all's show. Um, but I could tell, you know, I could go back and show you the messages I sent to Yaba and Aggie about. I mean, the guy's a star. You know, I mean, I didn't know how old he was or anything, but you know, talk about paying attention to his customer. You know, that guy gets it. You know, he was there, like, you know, we had three guys. It was me, Mellow Fellow, and Paul TRX, or Warren TRX. I forget which one he goes by, but the you know, the three of us had it. And so in the design process, it was a long design process, probably 2 months, you know, of going back through change. here, make this change. They bring it back up. Okay, what about this change? Bring it back. Oh, what about this change? We probably did that 50 or 60 times, maybe more. And, there was a couple times where they wanted to completely go in a different direction than what we were asking for. And, we took the time to explain what we were looking for and why, we didn't want it to go that way. And we're not talking about the stats. I'm talking about the look of the card. And the whole way through, he was there, trying to be, obviously he had to be responsible to Splinterlands, the company, but at the same time, he understood and recognized how important this was to us. So, I mean, I can't give that guy enough kudos. I mean, he's definitely a star. So love that he's around, loved hearing him on your show. And, he's an asset to the company. So I'm looking forward to the new Rebellion Summoners coming out as well. I'm sure they cut down some of the latitude that they gave because of us, because we kept sending them back, making all kinds of changes. So they probably don't want to hear that again.
Well, it's a special experience, man, and I think as long as guys like Joey are around, we had him on recently, within the last couple of months, and he was talking about some of the cards in Rebellion that are near and dear to his heart and kind of represent people that he knew in his life. So he understands, the card design process and how meaningful it can be to folks. And, that goes a long way when, we've got Billy McCoy in the meta for forever now, thanks to you.
Yeah.
And it's a lasting hallmark of your blood, sweat, and tears for this game. And yeah, I think as long as guys like Joey are around, I feel like he is willing to go that extra mile to make sure that obviously it's a mutually beneficial process, and it should benefit both parties equally. But at the end of the day, it's still your card, and it should be something that it resonates with you, and it kind of ticks the boxes for you in terms of what you're trying to accomplish with that card. So something that I would love to see that just popped in my head, if obviously if it's like a group buy that secures the rights to creating a summoner, it muddies the water a little bit. But how cool would it be, Dave, if you could use a Pacifilis icon as your in-game profile photo, as an additional benefit to creating that summoner?
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, especially, I mean, I'm all about, I think there's so much potential in what we've got going. Like a lot of times I think there's a certain people in the community that view like we're just marking our days before, like a gaming company only lasts for so long and then it's going to die. So how many more days do we got left, and make sure I get everything I can out of it. And I look at it completely the other way. I mean, I see so many things that they can do to make this even more fun. I mean, like I said, I enjoy playing the games. I enjoy watching, but I mean, things like what you just talked about, like icons are that you can customize. Like, I think that's a tremendous opportunity. Other kinds of cards or skins that you can get, for certain rewards or certain different modes to be able to play. I mean, there's just a tremendous amount of potential there that we haven't even scratched the surface. I mean, if they hired 100 people, I still don't think they could capitalize on all the different things that they could do right now. So
yeah, you called out last time, Dave. You mentioned a couple of times how terrible you were at analogies, and then you dropped wonderful analogies.
Oh yeah.
But you likened.
That's good. You're warped like me. Go ahead.
You likened our position in kind of the life cycle of Splinterlands as we were still in batting practice. We were still warming up. We weren't quite in the first inning yet. Are you still feeling like we're in that position, or have we started to creep into the real ball game? Or
nope, we haven't hit the real ball game yet. Nope, not even close. In other words, we've got a lot of lessons learned. We, you know, we know a lot what not to do. I'm pretty sure in the next bull run, they're going to be a lot more focused, on what to do with, all the growth, and less high-fiving and more, getting on it. So all those things are good things, and they're part of the process. But no, we haven't even hit the real game yet because, like I said, we have not we we have not got the point where, when you market, it's like, yes, a bad analogy. Is, like telephone companies, cell phone companies, they have a churn rate. They measure the churn rate. They get X amount of new customers coming in every single month, and then they have X amount leaving, and they got to monitor that churn rate and make sure that it's, appropriate, so that they know how much money to spend to bring in the new people. But they have to retain a certain number of those new people, or else, it's going to be a sieve. And it's kind of the same thing. Like, everybody's been whining, let's get on Binance. Let's do this. Let's do this. You know, and you never really heard me talk about that. In other words, I didn't want them spending any money, because what good was it going to be to spend money until you develop a game that was going to keep the people here? So I don't think that we start the game until people stick. And I'm not talking about guys like us. I'm talking about the average Joes again. The guys that just stumble into the game, your neighbors, hey, you want to come play, and you give them a spell book, and they get a few cards, and then they enjoy playing the game, and they keep playing the game, and it becomes a thing. At that point, then I say we enter the first inning. But until we get to that point, we're still like in practice mode. So that's my thinking. That's why I think we have a lot of potential. I don't think we're near the end. I don't even think we started, I mean, can you imagine what would happen if we had 100,000 new players, real players?
No.
Seriously.
And yeah, I mean, it's
And
not like that's not an unrealistic number to get, right? That should be a realistic goal, right?
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you, you guys came in right before SPS came out. Is that right?
No, after. So sort
2
of right
years ago.
before Chaos Legion dropped.
Okay. The blue rare reward card that gives a shield. You know which one I'm talking about?
Venari Wavesmith?
Wavesmith.
Yes. That card that's currently 2.5 cents. Take a guess how much it was back when all those people were coming in.
Well, I think I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I think Wasco let me in on the fact that he was paying maybe $10-15 per BCX or something along those lines.
I personally was selling them as fast as I could earn them at $6.
$6.
$6. So I
Yeah,
make one, I would sell it at $6, and they were going like hotcakes.
Wow.
And I'm not saying that like bragging. I'm just saying, when you have 100,000 players come in, we don't have enough cards. People are going to be buying to get their hands on the stuff that's there. And all along, we're taking for granted. Like people are like, Rebellion's going to go down. It just wait till all these airdrops are done. It's going to tank. And I'm thinking to myself, like, honestly, I've been here 5 years, and I've seen all the little stories, and, and I'm in the finance sector. So I kind of know a little bit how markets work, and it just doesn't work that way. Like, it's going to go down if more people have it that don't want to have it, and then they sell, so either because they quit, or because, for some reason they get disgusted or something like that. But I mean, at the end of the day, there's nobody holding a lot of packs to just blow back at everything. So in the case of Rebellion, you've got a very, very, very thin market, and all of a sudden you shove 100,000 people into our system, all looking for cards. I mean, where are they going to get them from? Who's going to sell them anywhere near here? And you may think like there's a lot, but just like you were talking about on the summoners, there's like, $50, $100 or $200 or whatever, cleans out the market. So I don't think that anybody is even aware of how close a run could be. And again, I'm not projecting it. I'm not like saying, oh, we're going to go from 2 cents to 50 cents on SPS or anything crazy like that. And I'm not even saying that the card market's going to go up. All I'm saying is when we get 100,000 more players than what we have today, I'm pretty sure that the asset prices are going to be many multiples of where they are. And everybody's going to reference back and say, geez, God, can you believe I was bitching about that being down? You know, I mean, it's like it's mind boggling, to be quite
Yeah, I mean,
honest.
looking at the market liquidity, Chaos Leading Summer's example, like we get 500 people into the game, and that's it's not enough cards. It's not enough cards for 100 people. Those legendary summers. I will absolutely be. I have made up my mind. I will be going and buying a number of the legendary Chaos League summoners to get them to max level as soon as we are done here. I know it's just because I mean the prices are too low right now, and there's no liquidity. Maybe people are holding cards. Maybe people have bought a bunch of cards and are holding to see if prices go up once this change to ranked happens, and which is would be smart, and I'm sure there are people doing that. But yeah, like you said, if we start to there's a lot more marketing things kind of going on, like we talked about earlier, with Matt being out there, Aggie being out there on these shows, and yeah, people coming in will start playing, and they'll get to bronze, they'll get to silver, they'll start to say, well, now I need multiple copies of these summoners, and they're just not there. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna be doing that.
Yeah, and you look at it, so many times people look at the world in which it is today, and they don't have any foresight whatsoever. And if we're never going to grow, this is probably a dumb investment for anybody. If we're never going to bring in any more people, then this is about the best we're going to have. But I don't think that anybody's planning on that, or at least anybody that's making decisions. Like, yeah, I mean, he's designing something that will bring in tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people one day. So, that's not even on the radar for a lot of people. Like, they're not even thinking like, well, what would happen if that happened? Where would they get those cards? What prices would they pay? I can tell you right now, if SPS was a dime, all of us would have a lot more money to buy a lot of different cards, right? I mean, would you guys at a dime think you would have extra money to buy more cards?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Because you could just burn your SPS at 10 cents, take that money and deploy that, into getting those summoners that you were just talking about, Hep, or if you wanted some gold foil cards to play in gold foil tourneys, or whatever, maybe put more money on land, or whatever the case may be. So the point is, I don't think we're going to have a problem with demand. Our problem is we just don't have enough people. When we get more people, more people that understand what's going on, that are fighting for those assets, the old push and shove that Aggie talks about, when there actually is more people pushing and shoving, we don't have enough assets, and that's basically the cold hard facts. And the great thing about the way it's is all structured is half the money of all the new sales that the team gets basically goes back to us. So, when all of a sudden Chaos Legion's not trading at, 80 cents anymore, and is now trading, let's say, $2 or $3, now Rebellion's not going to look so expensive. And now all of a sudden Rebellion sales are going to pick up. And when that happens, the SPS Dow is going to be picking up, which then makes SPS worth more. So it's a perpetual loop. I think I saw Aftersound. I didn't actually see his video because I only watch People's Guild religiously. So you guys are the only guys I watch every show. But I did see the headlines on one of Aftersound's videos, and he said that SPS was designed to always go to go up forever, or something to that effect. And he's right. In other words, with these burn mechanisms, the way that the Dow gets the piece, their piece of it, and that money comes into the Dow. I mean, SPS is designed to go up over time, not in a straight line, but to go up over time to be worth a lot more. when a lot of people understand that, when people understand the power of the token and where that can go, yeah, I mean, I think you're going to have a lot of people jumping in. So, you know, I'm excited. I mean, I don't even know where to start, to be quite honest.
Dave, to make things even more bullish, we've been, there's definitely a scent of bull in this conversation for the last 20 minutes. To make things even more bullish, I don't think 100,000 players, obviously that would be incredible and do amazing things for the tokenomics for the game, and it would just be a magical experience. But the reality is 100,000 players, we don't have the liquidity to support that. And what we really need, and shout out to Aftersound again, he ran a video a couple weeks ago about the Chaos Legion. I think there's an outstanding 2.6 million packs sitting on third party markets, whether that's Hive Engine or in game for sale. When you break it down, that supports just over 600 players coming in getting max decks, assuming it takes about 4,000 packs to get a max set of Chaos Legion. So 600 players coming in and wanting to play at the highest levels of the game would completely wipe out the liquidity of not only the card market, but also the pack market, which is just astounding. And that's such a small number. And I feel like that is something that's really achievable is 600 players. And if you extrapolate the data out, that's 1,200, 1,300 gold players, which might be go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you get 600 players, you'll get 60,000 players. I'm telling you, it's the same thing that's going to bring those 600 in is going to just keep them coming. So you can get 600 in a month, let's say, but within whatever 2 years, that turns into 60,000. Meaning, the pace is not going to slow down once it starts. It's going to get even bigger. And you're right, 600 players is nothing. And everybody
thinks it's a snowball, right?
Yeah, and having said that, you said play the game at the highest level. I'm telling you, we haven't even touched the surface for the average Joe. In other words, what happens to the guy that wants to play in silver, but he still wants to play in silver, but he still gets some max level summoners, just so he can do well, because he maybe doesn't have the time to figure out all the rule sets and all that. So he's going to win just on sheer force, having all the abilities and all the stats of the bigger cards, at least on, a dozen of his cards.
Dave, I got a question for you, and I've been thinking about this the last couple of days. How do we sweeten the deal with, or do we even need to sweeten the deal with that initial spellbook purchase? I was thinking, how do we get somebody as invested as possible for as minimal a buy-in as possible? So $10 is required for the spellbook. I think at this point that includes a kickback of a certain number of credits that the player can turn around and spend in market for card rentals or SPS rentals or something like that. I think SPS automatically gets delegated for, I want to say it's 60 days, might be 30 days, something like that, to really ramp up the earnings as quickly as possible. What if, should we be considering and go back to the drawing board and have a think about, should that spellbook purchase include a couple of packs of Rebellion, a couple of packs of Chaos Legion? I mean, the DAO is sitting on buku packs from both sets, and getting players tangible assets with the excitement built in of what is that pack opening experience like. Shout out to Nate and the design team for, Rebellion is by far the coolest pack opening experience that we've seen yet. But reading those brand new players, the ability to sink their teeth into as well-rounded of an experience as possible right out of the gate. And if we sweeten the deal with a pack or two, these packs are getting burned, they're getting sent to the DAO. I just feel like there's something else there that we can do as a community to support these new guys. And I would not be at all opposed to, for every spellbook purchase, the Dow sends over a pack of Chaos Legion and a pack of Rebellion to help, spur
It,
things.
it, I think that the idea and the goal is good. I don't know about the implementation of it because they have to think in terms of if it's a giveaway, so to speak. All of a sudden have Thorns out there opening 500 accounts, because he can flip them. That's kind of what happened in the beginning. In the beginning, we actually got cards. So literally, guys would buy the spell book, take the cards, sell the cards, get more than it costed, more from the cards, and then turn around and buy another spell book and just keep doing it over and over and over and over again. So they had to. That's why the spell book was not, why the soulbound cards even came into existence, because in the beginning we actually got cards. So I'm not the expert on solutions, but I definitely agree the goal is good. And I think one thing, and again, this goes back to we're in pregame before the actual game starts. In marketing, there's so many things that other people do in marketing that we don't do any of. So, for instance, why don't we have a basic starter pack, or spellbook purchase deal, and have a max spellbook purchase for 50, spend $50, get X amount of rentals for X amount of time, get a bundle, and obviously it takes a little more thought. It takes some programming. So I'm not saying it's got to be the first thing out, but we don't use any of those marketing tools that other people do. Even just our regular pack sales, like there was an argument in Map Chat the other day about we need $2 packs, and unfortunately we can't go back to $2 packs because that would devalue every card that we've ever put out. So we have to stick with the $4 to $5 range that we have now. You could argue four because of the voucher, issue. But somewhere between $4 and $5 is really kind of our sticker for our regular. But there's nothing saying that we can't do a mini pack for $2, and there's nothing saying that we can't do a jumbo pack for $50. And so we could have, mini packs, regular packs, and jumbo packs. And to make it even more fun, what if we put like a special card in each type of pack? So you get the regular cards, but you also get this limited card every so often. Like for every 20 packs, you may find a random whatever new fancy promo card. And the same thing with the jumbo pack. Maybe you get extra legendaries or something in that. So the point is, you can look to other either traditional card companies and see how they do it, or you can look to even other crypto companies how they do it. But having just one pack to sell at one price, kind of keeps you boring. It's not using all the tools that you can use. So I look at it and say, hey, look how much money they've sold without doing any of these little, glitzy type things. But, they're still available and there's still stuff we can do. So whether it's the regular packs or whether it's the starter, sign on spell book, I think there's a way to spice them both up in a way that, creates excitement and also, teaches, gets people to do things like, for instance, use the rental market, like if that was part of the whole process, like, hey, you get whatever, 30 days worth of free rentals, there you go. That's what you get for your purchase. I mean, then people would be used to how the rental market works and stuff like that. So
Yeah, no, I did definitely. I think you did. I think that's good. That's interesting. Yeah, because you think of every game. If you look at any game on Google Play or the Apple Store, any game that has in-game purchases, there's always tiers, right? You can look at even the most basic thing like Candy Crush and stuff like that, and what's the Angry Birds, all that stuff. All that stuff has different ways to incentivize you to kind of buy or buy more, and because they bundle different bonuses together and like get this, and we bundle this, or we're doing this thing where it's this contest this month where you're doing certain things in the game and you can get points, but you can get double points if you pay $5, and we'll throw in some other like bonuses, and yeah, that's definitely avenues they could do. You know, we could always throw potions in to everything, right? Because they're just kind of thrown around out there and soulbound anyway. Um, yeah, I mean,
And you can do things like skins or collectible items, or a land card. I mean, not everything has to be I know there's some people are like, oh, that's going to devalue the set. Like, no, if you do it right, you can actually charge more for the lower tier stuff. I call them mini packs. You can charge more per card for that because people are getting like something perceived of value, even if it's not even a tradable item, if it's like a cool skin or something. I mean, there will be people that want to collect stuff like that, and I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, why do people play like you were talking about some of these other games and they spend money in just because like they get no value out of it. So, there's definitely a reason why they do it. And
Mhm.
we definitely don't do it. And I'm not cutting on Splinterlands. I mean, they literally started from nothing. I was here when they started from nothing, and I think a lot of times people forget that. At the end of the day, they developed a game before there was no game. I mean, we didn't even have stats or anything on the card. There was no game. We just literally bought pictures, on the in a frame, in a card frame, and that was it. And they put everything together, and everything since then has been a lot. I mean, now when you look back, 6 years, you're like, oh my God, look at all the stuff we've done. But when you're in it, it doesn't feel like they're doing anything at all. Like,
yeah,
oh my God. I mean, why are they only selling one kind of card? Like,
yeah.
one kind of pack, like, I mean, they'll get to it. They'll get to everything. They can only do so many things at once.
One thing, just to follow up on that real quick, too. I wondered, could we sell $2 packs if those cards you required twice as many BCX to level up? That's something I thought about a while ago. Like, it would be great if packs were cheaper. I think it might get more people to buy and even buy more. But yeah, how do you address that? Is it something as simple as, because they've changed before, they've changed, the alpha and betas had different um number of BCX required to hit, max level. And, maybe that they could do it. They could do, here's a set where packs are going to be $2, but, instead of, what is like 110 for a rare to be max level, it's going to take, 220 cards. And especially with these changes to rank play, right? Like that gives, people can kind of level the cards up to where they want it to be. And, you don't necessarily need to say, well, I want it to be able to get to level 4 to be in silver. Um, yeah, that's something I thought about before, is that that's a way to kind of, make cards cheaper, or the packs cheaper at least, without making them, more powerful or undervalued.
Yeah, I mean, you could make the cards weaker, weaker mean like you just said, or you can make less cards in the packs. I mean, there is a way to get to a lower price point, but you got to do one of those two. You can't just make the standard 5 card pack $2. It would destroy every single player in the game. I
Mhm.
mean, you would have to have something that mitigates that.
I mean, the overall cost would be the same though, right? With your suggestion.
It would, but
Yeah,
I feel like people buy, yeah, the overall cost to say get a max deck would, or to get to a gold level deck would, but I just feel like people, when things are less expensive, people will buy more of that, right? Like I think that's kind of a thing in human nature, where you kind of like, it's like almost like penny wise and pound foolish. You're just kind of like, well, it's if something's cheaper, you're more likely to buy it or buy more of it. There may be people who are like, I can't, I don't want to, spend that, and even especially if you left the voucher system the same, right? Because people are like, I'd really like to use vouchers, but I don't want to drop $400 to get bonus packs. Whereas more people might drop like $200 to get, and then use vouchers to kind of get bonus packs.
I mean, I'm okay as long as the cards aren't the same. Like what I would hate to see is a I like a progression. If anything, like I actually wish they would just keep it the same for the standard set. But having said that, I don't really want to see it go higher because I agree we start pricing people out. But at the same token, if we go down, then we have to do something like what you talked about, or we got to go to like, a 253 pack, $2.50 three card pack or something like
Mm.
that. But again, you can mitigate any of that, different ways. Like I said, if you, in sports, for instance, they have, retail packs and they have dealer packs, that go through through the dealers. And in the retail packs, they have certain promo cards. And in the dealer packs, they have other promo cards. And there's a lot of people out there that if they like a particular card, then they're going to go buy that, buy that particular distribution method. Or a lot of people buy both because they want the short printed cards, the cards that you can only get specially in those ways. So, I mean, there are things that we can do like that too that would add a lot of value. I mean, you could even charge, $2 for a two card pack or 250 for a two card pack, as long as 1% of them was some kind of special card that you could only get that way.
Mm.
Stuff like that. So, in any event, I'm not an expert in that, guys. So, I'm sure you're going to get some hate. Well, you don't have live comments on your show, right? Like nobody's
Yeah.
out there streaming like, get that guy off. Hey, what does he know about?
No, yeah. Well, staying on card and card liquidity, definitely want to make sure we touch on this tonight is, the burn event, and you were, initially seemed like you were very for it and then kind of change your opinion. So I wanted to know kind of what was your initial thoughts on why it would be good to do that event, and sort of, what conversations did you have, or what made you rethink that position?
I think that the burn event is a great concept, and there's many ways to pull it off, of which I can come up with one, with a way that I believe would be awesome as well. I think that the way that they originally came out with it, and he never changed it. So basically, what the proposal was, I think, was flawed in the three reasons why I said, one, it was just a lottery, and a lot of people don't like lotteries. I mean, I don't like lotteries, and I know a lot of people I don't like. A lot of players don't like lotteries. I mean, the reason why they're here is because they're sort of looking as a way to spend their time to gather more assets. They're not really gamblers. I mean, there are a few degenerates out there that like to gamble, but most people, aren't gamblers. So I don't think the lottery is a pure lottery is the way to go. I think it's great in terms of excitement, as long as what you're buying is a core thing. So, for instance, when we did the first burn event, we were getting guild power. So you basically were buying guild power, right? Which was burning deck to get the guild power. And then on top of that, you got extra free lottery, and so that went over really well. This one, he didn't have that. He didn't have where you were buying anything. It was like it was going to be a purely arbitrage thing. So, the big players, not me, but the big guys like Vugadis and Crypto Eater and guys like that, what would happen would have been they would have been the guys that would have come in, and sure, they would have soaked up, all the lottery tickets when they saw that only half the lottery tickets were sold. So, yeah, it would have worked to burn some cards, but you basically were giving away those assets for half price, and essentially trading that for burned cards. So I don't like the form that it was in, number one. And then I also didn't like the idea of the Dow spending $100,000. I mean, I just don't. I personally don't think that I would. The team needs to sell stuff to stay in business. I'm all for that. I don't even mind giving them 100,000 if they said, "Hey, we need 100,000. Please loan it to us or whatever." I don't have a problem with that. But paying $100,000 to create the event that really, in my opinion, wasn't going to create a lot of value. it would seem like a very dumb investment, like not a very like no normal investor would make that decision. Like if you were a fiduciary, like what I am, you're responsible for people's money. There's no way in hell you could have agreed to make that decision. You couldn't give $100,000 in return for what? I mean, there was really nothing coming back to the Dow. So it just wasn't structured very well. And then what happened was the reason why I was for the burn event was again because I thought we were getting something. So and I thought all along, in fact, I thought Yaba had said, that there was a card that was going to be attached. And I thought we were going to buy a card with our burned money. So as we get our points, we take those points and we buy a card. I was actually hoping it was 2 or 3 cards. So you could, let's say I got 100,000 points and I could use those points to buy card number 1 or card number 2 or card number 3 or all 3 of them, whatever. In other words, you get your points, you buy the card, and then maybe a few lottery things, on top of that would have been fine. But I don't even think they were necessary. Like I just thought burning old edition to get a new promo was basically the gist of it. What happened was when I made the suggestion to, hey, you should add a card, and a lot of people seem to like that, and I think Yaba heard that message, but he came back and he said, I don't want to dilute the number of cards that we make, so I'm going to have to limit them. So they're still going to have to be given out in a lottery format. In other words, I don't want to have like 83 million, Grum Play Blades floating out there. Like we need to have like whatever, 4,000 or 10,000 or what, however many Grums are out there, or Grims. Sorry, Grim Smith guy. But, so the point is he's not ready mentally. He doesn't have the idea like we purchased these. He still has the idea that they should be in a lottery format. So in my opinion, after hearing that response back from him, like he's like, we could do it. We were going to use our promo card, but we could just shift the promo card where we were going to get sales, but it's going to cost the Dow more money. So looking at that, I'm like, well, I didn't particularly think spending 100,000 was that good of an idea anyway. So, why don't we just, the best thing to do is let's nix the burn event for now. Let's just table it, put it on the side, let them sell their promo card, let them get the money they need to get to run their business. Like Azir Khan actually made that point on the post, and he was right. That's what I think is the most important thing. And then after that's done, and then after money's not a problem, then I think the team should engage, Hepthorn and B Jangles and Dave and, Azir Khan and, everybody else and say, hey, what would make a good event? What would make you guys happy? Because we can do pretty much anything. And I guarantee you it would be better than what they were originally thinking, because there's a lot of us with a lot of good ideas. So that's basically the gist. And thank God this is a long form show, because otherwise you would have cut me off a long time ago.
No, I asked the question, man. I give you all the time you need to fully answer it. Especially when I'm asking 2 and 3 part compound questions. You gotta give you a little room to run there, Dave.
Did you understand my point?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
Good. All right, how about you, Jangles? Did you get it?
I got it, man. I've actually been reading through the comments on the burn proposal Peak D post. Yeah, I have to wonder, thinking back to the original burn, Azir Khan's comment really sticks out to me. He mentioned specifically that, actually looking back, the DEC burning event was one of my biggest personal Splinterlands related mistakes. I shouldn't have participated in that. I don't remember how much DEC I burned, maybe 16 million, which is, that's a massive sum. Today, my land plots remain deactivated because of that. Truly, they didn't force me. I did it, but I could also admit that it was a mistake. So I have to wonder, how successful are these burning events going to be moving forward unless the team really embraces a way to completely sweeten the deal? Number one. And number two, I keep thinking, and I've called this out specifically a couple of times on the show, and something that I would really love to see is just an ongoing permanent burn mechanic in game, either through land or I think that's probably the primary way where I could see players leveraging the burn mechanic is something on land. We've heard, and I think it was you, Dave, that actually mentioned how much you just mentioned it a few minutes ago. A land specific card would benefit, the other side of the equation that doesn't immediately benefit from something like this burning event. If we could get a land related promo card, I think with that piece of the argument coming into the formula, the dilution of cards isn't necessarily as much of a concern, just because in order to play the land game, you've got to have maybe this promo card is specific to only being quote unquote playable on land that you own. Well, all of a sudden that's boosting other assets to leverage the utility of a promo card like this, proposed land specific card. So I was a little bit disappointed with how Yaba spelled out the burn event. Honestly, it felt like a little bit of a lazy implementation. I wasn't certain where our 100K was going to when, the dev work was already done for this burn event. Obviously there would be some tweaks required because previously it was all DEC and DECB that was getting burned, and here we would be moving to both of those being available plus vouchers plus cards. But yeah, the 100K was a little bit of a tough pill to swallow, and man, I don't remember another proposal failing as miserably. One that was proposed by the team anyway. But yeah, kudos to Matt again. He's always willing to go back to the drawing board. I think he realizes and hears a lot of the pushback on this particular proposal. I saw he commented and responded directly to at least one of your comments in the Peak D post, talking about the promo card stuff. And yeah, hopefully if the burn event, kind of rears its head again at some point in the not too distant future, hopefully it's with kind of a brand new approach to what a burning event could look like and would benefit somebody, minnow like me or whale like you and like Azurcon equally. You get it, you get out of it what you put into it. And I think that's a key component that was a glaring miss from this most recent proposal.
Right. He was, and by the way, Yaba, number one, isn't perfect. He's really good at a lot of things, but he makes mistakes, and as we all do. And I think that, he also gets advice, like he'll run ideas by different people, and the he'll run ideas by different people, and those people may or may not be in touch with that particular issue. So for instance, I mean, he doesn't run too many things by me, but when we talk he does. But my point is, like, I don't know who he's talking to, but evidently, in my opinion, his advice or whoever gave him, like, hey, yeah, that's a good idea, they were just off. They either didn't think about it deep enough, or maybe they thought it was going to be a repeat. But the great thing is they're willing to listen to the community, and like you said, it was massively outvoted. I also think the other thing that Yaba said, and this comes down to the soulbound cards, the solution there, he's made it very clear to me personally, as well as because I was trying to form a compromise in that, and try to find a solution. And basically came down to it, Yaba was actually more hawkish on the issue than anybody else. In other words, he, like, we were talking like 2x to 4x, and he was thinking, oh my God, it's not anywhere close to that. So at the end of the day, he came back and he's like, Dave, I don't want to do stuff just to appease the people, like just to make them happy. I want to do what's right for the game. And, he's right. I mean, that's what he's got to do. And I think on this burn event, there is a way to do it where it's good for the game, but I don't think this one was structured that way. I think this one was structured to, throw some, hey, I could get an alpha pack or a beta pack or an untamed pack. And then, everybody goes to their calculator and say, geez, look how much value is being created. Like there's $200,000 worth of prizes and there's only 100,000 in it. So I got to double the chance, of getting my money back, kind of thing. But I mean, that's not really what I think is fun. And I also don't think that's where the burn, where it's their strong suit. Their strong suit is a brand new card is worth more than an old card, if you think about it. When they come out with the promo, that card on a per card basis is worth more than an old reward card or an older Chaos Legion card that nobody wants. So that's where, just from a straight burn mechanic, that's their edge. So you could get 10 maxed Pelacor Conjurers or Pelacor Deceivers. You could get somebody to trade 10 of those for one max, new thing, out. And that's where you got your leverage, is you create something that somebody wants and then give them, hey, you want to do it, here's the cost. And then it becomes more of a market driven thing. And he was worried about too many people buying it because it was going to be good. Well, that's actually not a bad thing. If too many people buy it, that means they burned so many cards. But as long as you don't like entice them to do it by, kind of like, and we're going to give you this, and we're going to give you this, and we're going to give you this, as long as you're like, hey, here's the deal, here's these 3 promo cards, here's the formula that you can use to burn old cards. If you guys want them, take them. If you don't want them, don't take them. And then whatever gets burned, and whatever gets created, and nothing else, no frills. I think that would go through huge. Or if, like you said, a land card could be thrown in there, or other things. But the point is, I don't think you need to give people stuff. I just think you create the new card and people are going to want to do it. But having said all that, I don't think I think that they need to get the revenue from the sale. So therefore, all this is kind of like, 6 months from now. I don't think this is even going to happen in the near term, in my opinion.
One thing, I've heard someone's, at least one person say, is that, they were a little discouraged that the DAO had to kind of pay all this money for this burn event, when it's really the burn event is trying to fix a problem that was created by the team, right? It's not that, the DAO didn't have anything to do with overprinting all these cards. This was kind of a mistake that the team had made, and that maybe the team should bear more of the responsibility to find a way to fix it than to leave it all up to us and the DAO. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think that comes down to, the DAO should be an entity that's looking out for the DAO. Like if I'm the fiduciary for the DAO, my job should be to make sure that those DAO funds are used in a reasonable manner for the benefit of the DAO, not for my own personal assets, not for yours, not for anybody's other than the DAO. And so when people get into that, like, oh, they should do more, or they should do more, the DAO should do, really, honestly, nobody should be doing anything other than what makes good sense. So if it doesn't make sense to pay $100,000 for that event, why are we paying $100,000? Just like if it doesn't make sense for the team to create a burn event to take older cards off to reduce the supply, because they've got other needs, that they got to make, then they don't need to address that. Let's leave the older cards, sitting out there at 0.6 of a penny or wherever they are. Like, who cares? I mean, at the end of the day, Yabble was right when he said, we can't just do things to please people. We have to do what's right. So if what's right pleases people, great, but we can't do wrong things to please people. And I think that, so getting back to that, I don't think the team should have done anything they didn't want to do. And I also think the DAO shouldn't have done anything it doesn't want to do. So that's why I think the whole thing is better being tabled and brought up at a different point.
Agreed. Yeah. And it comes at an interesting time, and kind of looping back to what we were talking about earlier. If we could bolster the player experience, we can sweeten the deal for what new players come in, experience right out of the gate. All of this is going to be a wash anyways. The whole purpose of this burn event was to remove a lot of that excess liquidity. Well, there's multiple means to that end, and one of the other means to that end is bringing in additional players, and all of a sudden it's a non-factor anyways.
And honestly, I think with this new mechanic that we got coming, as well as the new players we got coming, I think that the worry about all the old overhang is actually it's like a no-brainer. It's like a non-issue. I mean, it's an issue if you think we're never going to get any new players. But if we're going to have new players, we don't have enough cards. I mean, I think people are going to see that very, very soon. And all of a sudden,
bingo.
And then all of a sudden we have this burn event come up, we burn the cards, and the next thing you know, in 6 months, everybody's going to be saying, "Oh God, how stupid were we to burn all those cards? Now it's too expensive to get new players."
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, now the prices are so high, no one wants to
right. I mean, who's going to pay $80 for a summoner? That's nuts. But I mean, it would happen. I mean, if SPS goes to a dime, watch what happens. And I say a dime just because I think people can't. When I say $1, nobody, they think I'm smoking crack or something. But when I say a dime, they actually think it's possible. So, but the point is, whatever takes us up into the uptrend, it's going to propel us to a much higher number than where we are today. And there is a point where it becomes like free money, like for instance, on the last one, I was talking about, I sold my Wavesmith for $6, right? I was selling them, but I was also paying $5,000 for, max, untamed summoners, gold foils, so, in other words, it was like, hey, yeah, I got plenty of money, because everything's going up and I sold this, I'm going to just take that money and buy that. And, that's kind of the way the environment works. So the same thing will happen the next time, when we go to 10 cents or 20 cents or 50 cents or whatever it is, people are going to be like, holy cow, look how much money I got. Yeah, I can afford that $80 summoner or that $100 summoner again. And all that, it just feeds on itself. So, do I think it's a problem with the Chaos Legion cards? No, not at all. In fact, I think I had 50,000 packs, and I listened to people whining there every single day, and I bought 50,000 packs. I'm like, good God, man, maybe I should be upset, but I'm not, and I'm sure I bought more packs than a lot of people that are complaining, because I've been able to play the cards, B, I don't believe that they're going to be zero, and I'm still planning on using them. Like, I'm not one of those people that say, oh, once it goes to wild, it's dead forever. You got to get out of it, modern. Like, I don't think that way. I think we're going to find a way to make wild fun too. So, maybe not in this unit of time, but at some point, I mean, cards should be fun. So,
well, it's all you hit a key point there. It's all relative. People are telling you're drinking the Kool-Aid for talking about SPS hitting $1 when 10 cents is a reasonable goal. Well, when we get 10 cents, all of a sudden $1 feels much more reasonable. Yeah, so it's all in context. It's all relative. And Dave, I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about the soulbound stuff. So you approached Hep and I, gosh, I guess it was a couple of months ago with kind of what you were thinking about an unlock fee and what that should look like for the community. Obviously, things have changed a little bit, and we've heard Matt's proposed. I don't think, maybe you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that we've had a confirmation on that 18x cost being kind of set in stone for what it's going to look like to unlock these cards, and I don't think we've heard anything outside of Matt is thinking about a 6 to 12 month unlock window. Um, we haven't heard confirmation on either of those details, right?
That's correct. Yeah,
That's correct.
yeah. I mean, basically, like I said, I was trying to find a compromise at the time. It was the 2x, guys like, it should be unlocked at 2x and not a penny more, and then, the other side was like, it's got to be at 4x because it's going to dilute and permanently, keep the value of the Chaos Legion set down forever, and it's going to hurt land and blah blah blah. So, make a long story short, I was kind of in the middle on this. So, I didn't particularly care. I just wanted to get it solved. In other words, find a solution, like try to bring the people together. And the answer is there was a point where I did speak to Yaba and a couple other people, and basically, his point was it's way too low. Like that 2 to 4 range was way too low. He brought up in those calls that 18x was what it was worth, but he also said he would take in other factors such as the time it took you to play to earn it. So there should be some discount there. The fact that it's, through the X amount through the cycle, so it won't be in modern for much longer. Once it's fully unlocked, it won't be in modern. So I'm sure he's going to discount it from the 18x. I don't know what he's going to discount it from the 18x, whether it's 15x or 10x or whatever, but I don't think it's going to be 18, but I also don't think it's going to be 4 or 5 either. So it's going to be somewhere between there, would be my guess. And in terms of the time frame, all he said was he does believe that there should be a time frame, which I 100% support. In fact, that's the only thing I particularly cared about the most. Was I do think that there should be a time frame, because if there's not a time frame, then you're never going to have any certainty, and if there's no certainty, there's no reason to move. Like, I'll just hold my cards forever, and if they ever become valuable, then I can unlock them 20 years from now, so there should be a point where I have to make that decision. In other words, whether it's 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, a year, 15 years, whatever, there should be a period of time where you have to say, am I going to do this or am I not? And by just having some timeline, you're going to create an event. And I think that's actually good for whatever he decides. So I think that's where we stand.
Dave, I got to commend you going against your historical nature of Hatfield McCoy conflict first to embracing nothing but compromise, man. I appreciate that greatly, and what you bring to the table for the community, man.
That's true. I had to I learned it from my kinfolk, fighting all the time. So
well, man, I have to wonder, I think 18x is actually reasonable. If it's 18x plus you can get a significant discount via vouchers, all of a sudden it's a much more practical approach.
Yeah, I mean, unless he changes his mind, I'm pretty sure half of whatever it is going to be through vouchers.
Yeah,
so
which is 18x,
huge. That's really 9x plus vouchers.
Yeah. And I'm with you, man. I feel like the window to unlock is kind of where the magic lies. It immediately puts a little bit of pressure on creating what is the long-term scarcity of these cards.
Yep.
And there's, it plays to a lot of the folks that are keen to speculate. On the surface, we see cards like Coastal Sentry, cards like Iziar. There's a handful of others that are very, very meta. The Martyr cards, the Kulu. Yeah, exactly. No, all the epics, I would argue, are very, very valuable. But then there's the other cards that are kind of the unsung heroes that, very much have their niche, but they're not a whole lot more than that, than being very niche. Well, all of a sudden you're forced to kind of speculate within that window and assume that guys like Call Me Tim and Yaba and the design crew over at Splinterlands that are responsible for creating gameplay moving into the future are going to find ways to bring value to these kind of unsung hero cards of these soulbound sets. And yeah, it's kind of the game within the game that we've heard other guys talk about is that speculative piece of, do I roll the dice on some of these soulbound cards that aren't particularly meta at this current point in time? And yeah, so it's kind of a fun exercise in thought to kind of approach the unlocking window.
Yeah, and there's I got into this because I was actually a collector. I actually have tons of sports cards. I mean, tons, like roomfuls of them. So if you think I got a lot of Splinterlands cards, I got a lot of regular cards too. That's just kind of how I am. My mom said I was a pack rat when I was a kid, and that's kind of how I am. I just I get stuff and I don't particularly want to get rid of it. I just want to just keep getting more and more and more. So, I don't, I could have one of those diseases. I'm not quite sure what it's called, but it's one of those things. But but I do think of it myself as a collector. So in the case of like a rusty Android, I got rusty Androids. I got a bunch of rusty Androids, so level ones. I never play them. I haven't played them for years. In fact, I don't know. I have some that probably never, ever, ever been played. But having said that, to me, why do I keep it? It's not for the money. I didn't sell it when it went to whatever, 50 cents or a buck, in the last bull moon. And I'm not planning on selling it anytime in the near future. But I am happy that I'm one of the few people that have X amount of rusty Androids, because one day I think people are going to collect Splinterlands cards. Not if we never figure out the way to get new people in. So if that never happens, of course, Hepthorn and B. Jangles probably aren't going to be the guys, that are going to be rushing for the rusty Android. But 10 years, 20 years, 50 years from now, I think if we succeed, there's going to be people that are going to say, I want a vampire, or I want a, Kulu, and just pure having a Kulu just because it's a cool card, So in my opinion, the collectability aspect of the game is real. And, I've said, or I think this way, and I've said it to different people, I can guarantee you that if there was a time limit, every single one of those cards would have at least one copy turned to a real card, no matter how bad it was, because I'll do at least one, because from a collectible standpoint, how cool would that be to have the only non-soulbound card? So, and the point is, it's not just going to be one guy with one. There'll be a lot of guys that say, hey, yeah, that's a pretty cool card. I like the way it looks, or my kid likes it or whatever. So,
well, Dave, if we ever get to a place where, national TV or TV publications, Apple TV and Netflix, start featuring NFT collectors on their version of Hoarders, I'll be the first one to put your name in the hat, man, and we can show off your digital NFT collection, man.
That's true. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of collecting everything, I personally I was a little bit disappointed that we're waiting until, I think Matt said June, July, until the next batch of Soulbound reward cards comes in. And I'd love to hear your thoughts, Dave. I feel like we overprinted a little bit on the Soulbound reward cards. I think that the logical solution to that is this reward unlocking window, but that still leaves an additional 6 months of printing and collecting these cards. Obviously everything could change with the ranked overhaul. I'm assuming that we will get the option to collect reward points and then spend them on what we prefer to spend them on before that new Soulbound batch comes in. But yeah, I'd love to get your take on that window, that additional 6 months of printing.
I don't think there's going to be. I don't think there's 6 more months of printing. At least that's not the way I understood it. I understood that he's going to, in the spring or summer, put out, have the new set that comes out. At that time, at the point the new cards are out, the old cards are done printing. Right. So there's no more, you can't earn them anymore. You don't earn any more Soulbounds. the 6 months or 3 months or whatever time frame, that will be the time that you can have to unlock. Period. No more printing though. So if you have them in your account, you can unlock them and move them and trade them or sell them or rent them or whatever. But you can't create new ones. Like you'll know the total possible amount of Kulus, but you won't know the total unlocked amount until that 6 months is up. But they'll stop printing. My guess is probably May or June. That'd be my guess. Because I mean, just logically, if he's going to come out with the new ranked play point system, is it really going to make any sense to be throwing old soulbound reward cards into that? Probably not. He's probably going to want to put the ranked points in there instead of cards. So my guess is at that point, that's probably a month or two away. So I'm thinking May probably earliest or June at the latest. But I have no insight. I really don't know. I just pay attention.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah, I'm hoping we get it. I'm fine with it being longer. I still got some couple BCX to some I need to pick up, so I'm happy to keep it a
Yeah,
little longer.
me too. I mean, I'm in that position. I mean, my Bad Witch account has them all, except for it doesn't have all the gold foils. But when he started talking 18X, all of a sudden I started thinking about that. And again, they're not going to be 18X, but I was thinking, well, God, what if they are? And I'm like, well, I'm not going to go pay 18X for cards. Like, I personally am cheap. Like I like buying the cheap stuff, not the expensive stuff. So I'm thinking, well, what am I going to do? And then I'm like, well, play more matches, So, and then like now all of a sudden I want to go play more matches because they're more expensive. So if I can earn them, it's much better than. So my point is the people that were crying about him being high in price didn't realize what a gift they've been given to be able to earn them before they had to be 18X is my point.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I want to get, like you said, I mean, there's a couple of cards in there that like the martyr cards. I mean, every single one I get, I'm like, I feel like I won the lottery, because those are just the coolest cards in my opinion.
Well, especially with, we had Joey on and I think Call Me Tim called this out too. If we move to a place where abilities are kind of set specific, all of a sudden that raises the ceiling really high for cards like the Marks Rat, like the what's the Earth common guy, Fungus Flinger, that have Martyr, which as we've seen is such a powerful ability, and if it's only available with stuff like these soulbound reward cards, and maybe that's not to say it's not going to come out in potential future sets, but that's such a sneaky, clever way to keep maintaining the value for sets. We've talked about Force Field being kind of uniquely Chaos Legion, and Archimus and the Mycelic Slipspawn and the Jim Murat, all having Force Fields make those cards much more relevant in the meta. So yeah, man, I hear what you're saying. I think it's a cool opportunity and it's cool to think about. And Hep, whatever cards you need, man, I got you, bro. Just let me know.
All right, nice, good.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, other than my champ deck, the other accounts, like the one I played you on Hep and whooped you that one time, and then you came back and got me the next. But like that account, I mean, I think I'm at gold level at best on my commons, and like the epics and legends, way behind. So I mean, I definitely, I personally am not looking for the day when there's a done printing. Like I'm perfectly fine earning them every day. Like to me, that's a hell of a perk. That again, I don't think a lot of people think. I think a lot of the problem that we have, and again, to be critical of the community, but not not anti-community, but just sometimes I think we're spoiled. We don't see the benefit because like there's guys in there that yeah, they're the best players, they're the top of the top, and they're getting doubles. and they're like, I hate these doubles. I hate getting, these worthless cards. I've already got a max. This is horrible. Fix it. But that's not every player in the game, and it's certainly not every player that's gold league on down. And I mean it's kind of like if everyone were like me, how would this world be? Philosophy, and in my opinion, we have to start thinking of like, what's it like to be a bronze player? What's it like to be a silver player? And be a little more like understanding that, it's not all for just the max level players. Like as soon as they get to max, it's not like all of a sudden, okay, let's stop, or this is horrible. Let's try to understand that, we got all different kind of players. And again, I think that's when we get that as a when we actually hit that point when the average Joe is playing, that's when we'll have those 100,000 new players. That's what we need. We can't have 100,000 top players without a million people at the bottom underneath.
That's a great
Yep.
point, Dave, and something I hadn't considered for guys like Hep who are starting to, they consistently gold player, one of the better gold players in the league.
Some
And
days,
given that
not every day. Not today, unfortunately.
I wasn't going to talk
Yesterday,
to you,
yes, not today.
thanks, man. But for guys like you who are or guys like Schnapoon, for example, I just recently saw within the last couple of days he's re-announced that he's retiring from the game. This change to ranked has really soured him on what Splinterlands is doing, and that's okay. But I think for guys like that who really relish and enjoy the competition in silver or in gold, having these soulbound cards, that's a huge leg up, right? Like you've got pretty much max cards for free for playing the game that are going to be a leg up on all the competition. So if you have, somebody like a Lux or you've gone and maxed out your Pasibilis, all of a sudden you're playing against gold players with max level cards. Yeah, great call out, man. And I hadn't considered that because sitting up in champ, that is what you hear, Dave, is I'm so tired of these cards. I've had them maxed for months. Like let's bring in the new batch. But then the flip side of the equation is the majority of the players are not playing in Diamond and Champ. And every additional day that allows for additional reward cards to be opened up and added to their decks, that's really meaningful when this change comes into play.
Yeah.
Especially if they understand it. In other words, part of the problem, I think, where we shoot ourselves in the foot as a community is, like the Salt comes out, but the counter Salt doesn't really take hold. In other words, I don't think a lot of people really think about that. Like they just see the people bitching, like, oh, you get these worthless cards. I don't know who wants to play that game, but they're really not worthless cards. I mean, talk to anybody here in 2 days, and they're going to be damn happy that they have those cards. Imagine being a brand new guy and starting tomorrow, buying a spell book and having to start without all those cards that you already have. I mean, it's going to be a hell of an advantage, and I think people are going to start to see that. So hopefully we can start talking about that as well, because I think the soulbound cards have been a plus, and I think they're going to continue to be a plus, but they definitely, I think the biggest problem with soulbound cards, honestly, is it's the first time. It's like uncharted territory. So nobody knew what to expect. A lot of people had certain expectations, it's going to be this, or it's going to be that, or it's going to, they're free. I'm going to be able to flip them. Oh my God, every time I want to go for a legend, ching, ching, there's $50 in my wallet. Like everybody's got their own way of looking at it. And once the rules are out, then it's going to be fine. It's going to be good. We'll adapt. And then the next set of soulbound cards, if you were to say, hey, do you guys want them or not? I'm pretty sure everybody's going to say, yeah, please, yes, give me soulbound cards, because that's a good, I'm happy I played, basically.
Yeah, I wanted to discuss this with you a bit. Why do you think it is that every little everything we do in the game has to be met by, vehement opposition by at least a portion of the community. There's always some people, like, it seems like no matter what it is, that it's just like, this is the worst thing that has ever happened to us, and the game is going to be destroyed. And um people fight kind of tooth and nail. And we saw this, I think, recently with the tournament changes. Everybody thinks tournaments probably need to be updated and upgraded, but so many people just have so many different opinions that it just gets so heated. And why do you think that is? Because I look at map chats once in a while. I don't have access to it, but you do, and I know you spend a lot of time there trying to be a force for good. So why do you think that is? Is it just people are too invested in it, or people want to try to get too much out of it? What is it?
I think that's a great question. I think number one, it's perspective. Just the format itself. Anybody can say anything that's in there, and a lot of people don't bother because they're tired of it. Like you said, you don't spend a lot of time in there. There's a lot of guys that don't spend a lot of time in there, because they're tired of it. Like, I don't want to waste my time anymore. So what happens is, if you look at that tournament thing and you would say, geez, look at this. I mean, the community's divided. Look at all these negatives. And they fought and fought and fought for months about it. And then when it went to a vote, despite all the whining and crying, it was like 80%, 85%, that was for it, and it was a common sense, normal way to go. But all the people, pick it apart. So why are people picking everything apart? I think two reasons. One, some people just like to argue, so you could say it's cloudy outside, and another person, oh no, that's not cloudy. Let me show you cloudy. That's sunny, and they'll fight about it. So I think there's just a certain amount of personality where people are going to want to fight. And then slash troll. I mean, I think there's some people that like to get people going, and so they'll stoke them, intentionally. And then I think the other part of it is, I think that people don't look at the view, like, they're not empathetic. I think the average person is not super empathetic. So I'm not going to say they're self-centered, but it's the opposite, empathetic, where they don't necessarily think of what the other person's going through, or how this impacts the other people. And I just think that's, as society, we've kind of been trained to be that way, so I'm upset because alpha cards aren't playable in tournaments, and that's going to kill the game, because down the road, some guy's not going to buy an alpha card because it can't play in this specific tournament. In other words, it's like, you're not looking at the whole picture when you're making that argument. You're looking at your view of the world, and you're only looking at, like, how you think it affects, but you're not really looking at the whole picture. And in my opinion, I think if people would take the time to say, well, geez, let's see how this impacts the whole community, I think it would be a lot better. But unfortunately, I just don't think people are that empathetic.
Well, yeah, no, I agree, especially online, right? You have just the tendency to be able to be, and then kind of be more removed. Whereas when you talk to people, in person, or on the phone, or anything like that, even, or through video, it's anything, and there's more of a back and forth, and then it's easier to have that empathy. What can we do then to kind of get that perspective, right? Because that's one of the biggest problems with map chat, is that it's, a lot of it is just people who do have a lot more invested in the game, and who are maybe have a lot of the older cards, or who are able to play up in Champion League. And we don't get that perspective enough. I mean, I know there's like the general chat and stuff. It's like, School of Fish in there. It just comes of random stuff. But, how do we to get people to kind of take that perspective from someone who's just starting the game, or someone who's been playing the game for a while and only has a silver deck, but, really likes playing there, or someone who likes playing in bronze? Like, how, are there ways that we can kind of get more input or amplify, people's input who are further down on the totem pole than the people who are up in map chat.
Well, one, I want to say that what you guys are doing is exactly the antidote for that. In other words, where you guys talk about the issues, you bring people on, you discuss them. Like for instance, one guy asked me about land and how was that going to work, and I referred him to, I think it was a show you guys did with a hard point.
Hard point, yeah.
And I just said, hey, go listen to Hardpoint, talk with the People's Guild, and and that will fill you in on everything. And he was stoked and went out and bought deck and loaded up. So you guys are responsible for that, because you guys meaning you as the venue, you provided a better venue than Discord, in my opinion. So I want and say, hey, go back and look at Discord and read through all the chats, and you can figure it out. Hell no. I'm going to say, go here where you can listen to common sense people talk, about common sense issues. And, it's not like you guys are shills or anything. You guys are literally talking about what the issues are. And then I would say the second part of this, and I know we're getting close to the end, so I don't want to go too deep into theory, but
we'll always go overtime, get overtime for you, Dave. Don't worry about
it. All right, cool. Thanks. Since it'd be 9 months, you got to give me a little bit extra time to
Well, first he comes on the show is like, what am I even doing here? No one listens to this. Now he comes on the show and he's complaining we don't have him on enough.
It's the most famous show out there, man. I mean, so if in the real world, when the central banks came along and they created the ability to smooth out the booms and busts, that was perceived as a positive thing for mankind. But a lot of people have argued it wasn't, because it was actually better to have the big booms and the big ups and the big downs, because that actually was letting market forces take place. And the same thing is happening in crypto in a sense. And that's why we have such big swings, because we're going from one extreme to the other with nobody in the middle kind of smoothing it out. And I would say to some degree, this gets back to, I know a bad analogy here, Jangles, but it's similar to Mad Chat in that I think there's a process that we have to go through where it's almost like we have to, like when things were good, and this is before you guys even got here. I mean, we had our sour times. I mean, we traded deck at 30 cents on the dollar. I mean, 30 cents on the dollar. We haven't been there since Chaos Legion came out, never. So it was cheaper back then than it has ever been. And so at the end of the day, all these things are cycles. So the only difference is, between, an economy and the way Math Chat works is, one is economic and the other is, social. But at the end of the day, I think what happens is, the bad eggs eventually wean themselves out and get tired and leave, and there's a lot of them over time, and the good eggs stay around. And what happens is, the environment gets better, and then it naturally goes up. And I remember like Fighter for Freedom, for instance, we were buying when, I mean, the whole world seemed like it was coming in. The biggest holder, like somebody 5 times bigger than Bugadis now, was in the game and badmouthing them and threatening to sue them, and they were going to go out of business. And oh, it was horrible. And you got to get out. And he talked a lot of people into selling. And guys like me and Fighter for Freedom were like high-fiving each other when we bought something super cheap, out there on the market. Like, in other words, the guys that like us, we'd be sitting around and we're like, okay, yeah, we see that, but that's all right. We'll buy it, when we have time, and it's kind of the same thing now. So I think what's going to happen is Mav Chat's going to go through, the upcycle again. And then the upcycle, Aggie, is always saying things like, well, we'll just wait till the next one and all the salt will go away. And he's kind of right, but I think it's just because of the people are gone. The people that are there to stoke negativity or to, talk it down or to, want to psychologically prove that they were right when they were negative, and see, I told you it was going to go down and it sucked, and all that stuff, because they get tired of doing that. And then on the up cycle, everybody's high-fiving and it's all up and it's more money than you could ever dream. Like I said, when we hit, if somebody said we're never going to hit 10 cents, I said, okay, well, I mean, that's fine. And then somebody else said, yeah, we'll hit 10, but we'll never hit 20. And what's funny is, if we hit 10, we'll hit 20. And if we hit 20, we're going to hit $1. So if you think we're going to hit 10, we're going to hit $1. So maybe we never hit 10. But the point is, the same thing that's got to turn us to the upside is going to be the same thing that's going to propel us going to the forward. And that is the ability to attract and retain new people. Once that happens, watch out. We're gonna take off. And then you're gonna think you were the smartest guy in the world. Like everything you saw was clear. Everybody here is gonna talk about how dumb everybody was that sold, and it'd be the exact opposite. So, that's the analogy. So
Dave, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I'm sure you've given this some thought. Shout out to Level Up Life. I think he kind of got the ball rolling on conversation around how do we maintain some quality control in Mav Chat through ongoing stake. So traditionally, Mav Chat status has been acquired through purchasing 1,000 packs, I believe. Obviously, the entrance, the cost of entrance to Mav Chat status has changed over the years. Obviously Alpha $2 packs, Untamed $2 packs, Chaos Legion that doubled, and now Rebellion. It's arguably in excess of what Chaos Legion cost. Is there something to be said for we need a little bit of a changing of the guard in Mav Chat? The idea that was put forth, for anybody who doesn't remember, Level Up Life was calling for, I think it was 100K SPS staked. So it's not a one-time purchase. You have in perpetuity gained the access to this Mav Chat channel, but it's your ongoing stake in the game. And we've since heard Matt talk about, hey, I would love to kind of revamp what does it look like to earn Mav Chat status and that sort of stuff. And I feel like that could be a great way to kind of weed out a lot of that salty sentiment in the meantime. I think you're 100% right on with longer term. Green Candles is going to do wonders for ridding Praetoria of all things salty. But until that happens, how would you go about adjusting? What does Mav status look like?
I think I'm sensitive. I prefer change to occur in a positive manner rather than a negative manner. So in the case of taking something away, I push back a little bit. Like I'd come up defensive and like, oh geez, I hate taking something away. So for instance, a guy spent the money that he needed to buy his Mav status. He thinks it's really important. So, I kind of hate to just take that away from him. However, what I do think you should do is find like a new format. That's what I would do. I would keep what you got and then set up a new one. And if you want to make it 100,000 staked SPS, or you want to make it a different, set of rules, like you're not allowed to, be negative, whatever. I mean, I don't know whatever rules people want to have, but the point is, whatever positive rules you want to have, I would rather see a new format edition added. And then and we'll use the 100,000 staked as a thing. So why not have 100,000 staked SPS room, period? And then what will happen is naturally the people are going to go where they're comfortable, just like what's happened. The people that aren't comfortable, they don't go. So that's why what you're left with is mostly negative. If you think about it, I mean, there's defenders, there's somebody going there to try to counteract the negativity, but there's people that are going there for the purpose of spreading negativity. And so if you had an additional room where, let's say, again, I'm not saying 100,000 SPS is the right thing, but let's just say it was called the 100,000 SPS room. then what would happen would be people would start having the same damn conversations there and probably be more productive. People would stop going to the old math chat and they would go to the 100,000 SPS room, and it would become essentially what you want. So that's how I would handle it. But having said that, that's just, I mean, I'm like anybody else. I just have an opinion. In other words, I know Level Up Life and Azircon and some of those guys, they want to revamp, the map chat. And I think they've done a good job, in lately of making it a little better. Like it hasn't been as bad in the past couple months. But I also think it's catching people. Like Azircon is a lightning rod, like sometimes he gets under people's skin on purpose. He knows what he's doing. He knows he's jabbing somebody, and he's doing it for a reason. I mean, I think he's a great guy, and I think he cares a lot about the game, and he has his methods. Like it's his way of doing it. But he's been demoted or axed out of map chat, and I look at that as not a good thing, in my opinion. Because we need
is he allowed back in? I saw that when I saw that he kind of got banned or suspended for or whatever, I thought was not really that bad at all.
I don't think it was either. Yeah.
Well, especially considering it's Azircon and he is, like you said, Dave, he's a lightning rod and he enjoys the being the great defender of the greater good.
Well, and he also does it, I think. In other words, he looks at it as a little bit of a battle. So he sees somebody who he perceives as bringing it down, so he's going to attack them, maybe unprovoked, because he views it that way. And again, I mean, you can't walk in somebody's shoes. It's sometimes, like he sees it how he sees it. I respect that he's got a good heart, and so but at the end of the day, I want to see him communicating with the community. If he's not in map chat and there was an SPS 100,000 room, for instance, and he was in that, then I would probably be hanging out in SPS 100,000 room, so I could be involved in those, whatever he's involved with, and the same thing with you guys or somebody else. So my point is, I think that the it has gotten better, but I also think there's a dynamic in there where there's a lot of gotcha. So in that case, in Azircon's case, he's made enough enemies that anytime he says something wrong, I'm pretty sure, the boards are lighting up, saying, "Hey, look at what he just said. Are you going to do anything about that? And if you don't do anything about that, then you're a hypocrite, or something like that." Like, in other words, kind of forcing the moderators to do something. So I don't know which moderator banned him. I don't know if it was Royal Eagle or somebody else, but at the end of the day, that's kind of putting the team in a bad spot, in my opinion, and it's actually weakening our community. Like I would actually like to see more of a community decision on who gets banned and who doesn't. It's kind of the same thing with botting, for instance. And I know we're way over, but for instance, if somebody's cheating in the game, I think there should be like a panel, of an appeals panel, so to speak, where the group of people are elected by the SPS, holders, like, so let's say there's 7 or 9 or 11 people, and their job is to review anybody who gets a ban. I think it would make everybody much more comfortable in bans being passed out if there was a community that could overrule the ban, so to speak. So, for instance, if Django was caught using that private battle helper, then he could appeal it, and then let a group of his peers in the community say, okay, well, why do you think he did that? And then Django's tell us why they're wrong, and then we listen to it, and then we can overturn it. Like things like that, I think we can help the community with. I mean, the community can help the team with, because we can be the people, that are like the ultimate, say when it comes to policing ourselves. So
Well, Dave, I'm humbled that you think I would my gameplay warrants any sort of investigation into private battle helper usage.
Well, I know I've been tracking all your matches, and they do look kind of suspicious. So
Oh shoot. Well, I'm with you, man. I think as much as we can move to the DAO is obviously community driven, and we see a lot of that in DAO proposals, and everything is weighted based upon your stake in the game. I would love to see that translate into um something Discord related as well. I
yeah,
don't know how easy it would be to accomplish that. It feels like a little bit of a lofty goal, but
I
um
think all you would have to do is, honestly, it's the way in which something like that's structured. You just say, all right, mods, you guys ban liberally. However you want to ban, make your reasons, put them down, ban the guy. And then if the guy wants to appeal it, we have like a little committee or a little group, that they get the information and they can decide. And then some, we're common sense people. I mean, my God, I think any of us can read what was said and say, geez, don't do that anymore. Yeah, you deserve a ban. Or no, that doesn't rise to the level. We reverse that or whatever. In other words, it's one of those common sense things, and so I don't think it has to be a whole process. I think I mean, it's got to be a process to get it set up. But other than figuring out who would serve on that board. And I know people have said that SPS, oh, look at just the big SPS holders would rule it, and I don't want to step on your show with the Zircon, but the whole, SPS, I mean, people that buy SPS are buying something valuable. They're buying the ability to make decisions, as it comes to the community. I mean, that's what you own. That's what a governance token is. And it's been underappreciated by a lot of people. In fact, most of the salty people are salty because they don't feel like they have enough voice. Well, why don't they have enough voice? Because they didn't value the SPS token. And if they understood and said, geez, this is valuable, the ability to help shape the way things go, whether it be Discord chat or whether we put band battle helpers, in modern, or have a burn event, the ability to vote and govern, is a big deal. And once people realize that, I think they're also going to realize that 2.5 cents is really cheap. In other words, some of these people that, are upset with, like, there was one guy on one of the things that said that this is ridiculous. It was on the tournament thing. This is ridiculous. The SPS holders should not be making this decision. This should be the card holders are the ones that matter. The card holders are the ones that support the game. And then I was like, well, no, I mean, the governance token, is what SPS is. I mean, that's kind of what it does. I mean, it's supposed to make these decisions. He's like, well, that's not how it should be. You know, so the point is that's how people think. Like they think, well, I don't think that's important. So therefore, I'm not going to own the token. So I'm just going to sell the token and I'm going to play the cards. Well, that's okay that you play the cards, and that's an okay strategy if that's what you want. But you then can't complain that you don't have any voice, So I like anything that's stake weighted because those are the guys that got, skin in the game, so to speak, and I would love for everybody to, say, geez, I want to double and triple and quadruple what I have so I have more voice in the game.
100%. Yeah, completely agree. All right, Dave. Well, we're pushing 2.5 hours, man. 9-10 months. I feel like it's to your earlier statement, way too long, man. We'll certainly get you back on before that amount of time passes by again, and we'll get you caught up to Azurcon's episode count, man. Don't sweat
Yeah.
it.
No, I'm just joking, by the way. In fact, I love listening to all y'all shows, and AZ's good. I mean, he's always a trip to listen to. And I was joking about being 9 months. I figured I had to give you shit about something since I had to start out by apologizing. So
Well, man, we always appreciate your insights, Dave. Appreciate what you represent for the community, and Yeah, you're the man, dude. You're an absolute asset for Praetoria and Splinterlands and what we're trying to accomplish here. And appreciate you sticking around and of course appreciate you taking the time to hop on and shoot the breeze with both Hep and myself, man. Thank you very much.
Yeah, great
Yeah.
talking to you. And like I said, I love what you guys are doing. Just keep it up. And in 2 days, remember I told you this is the best thing. Well, it may take you more than 2 days, but within 2 weeks, just remember I said it was the best thing since SPS when this comes out. Because I think people are going to start having fun. I mean, real fun. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's crazy to think that it's here already,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just
Yeah.
the opening iteration. There's more to come.
And there's a lot of people that are saying things like, this is just going back to the old way. And the bots are going to just, rank on up. Like, like I said, the effect is not going to be on the diamond and champ player. The diamond and champ player is already playing max level cards. The effect is going to be on the gold, silver, and bronze guys. I mean, that's where you're going to see the difference. I actually think you're going to have a lot of people come back. In fact, as soon as it's live and as soon as I see that it's running how it's supposed to, like I'm going to message all my guild. Like we have a lot of people that have left over the years. I'm going to say, hey, come back. Like this is what you left because you felt stuck. Well, we're now unstuck, so come back and play. And I think you're going to see a fair amount of people that are gonna understand and appreciate that. So we'll see.
I sure hope you're right, man. And
Yeah.
good times are here. Better times are coming, man.
Yep. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate the time.
Thank you so much, Dave. Always great to have you.
Yep. Talk to you
Yep.
later.
All right.
Absolute honor, man. All right,
People's
everybody.
Guild.
Yo, thanks, Dave.
You're not gonna give us a woo
Yeah,
before you go?
I
I was
was
gonna
just
give
gonna
you your
say,
sign
can we
off.
get a little Ric Flair monologue here to take us home?
I don't know. All right. No, I can't. It's too late.
All
I'll
right.
embarrass myself.
Well,
But
we
woo.
appreciate you just the same, Dave. For everybody out there listening, I appreciate you stopping by, giving us a listen, and quick acknowledgement to Crypto Eater and what he's doing with both Aqualis and if you haven't seen, there's a push and shove meme coin that is being brought to the table. We got Crypto Eater coming on in a couple of weeks to kind of walk us through the details of that stuff. So definitely tune in for that episode. Some cool stuff coming down the pipeline from Crypto Eater and Co.
I'll be hitting up the Aqualis market after this, getting my DC back to buy my legendary
Billy
Chaos Legion
McCoy.
summoners before there's none left on the market. If there's zero left on the market, you guys know, like maybe after this, I had a few too much to drink tonight and decided to go all in. So see what the market looks like after you listen to this episode and see what damage I've done. Hopefully not too much.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Thanks again for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we will catch you next week. Until then, you have been listening to
The People's Guild.